whiteboard has come up separately. Good morning, Rosalind Palmer here. Believe it or not, this is actually my first webinar that I've actually run. I have been on so many other webinars from other people, and but never actually run my own. And so I felt it was long overdue that I did. And I started writing a book earlier this year, which is muting or putting the Itty Bitty Shitty Committee in your head on mute. And I'm pretty much well through writing the book, but obviously with having been absorbed in that topic, I know it would lend itself brilliantly to a masterclass. So I'm really aware of everybody's time, and I'm very into reciprocity, give and take. So when I ran a PR company in the 90s, one of my major clients was Air Miles, and I actually put loyalty on the map for Air Miles, for British Airways. And our big word always was reciprocity. I give, I take, or you get something from me, you get something back. So I really appreciate that you are giving me an hour of your time, and I will give you lots of really tangible, fantastic information that you can take away. There will be a recording. Now I've pressed the right button. After this event, there's also a guided meditation at the end for 10 minutes. I've already pre-recorded it. So if you can't stay at the end, if you need to dash off, maybe you've got an 11 o'clock meeting, don't worry, you can receive that later, plus any other things that are referred to during the presentation. Also, I'm going to do a poll during this presentation, and also ask you some questions. Now, I haven't unmuted everybody, but I want you to type your answers in the chat box. So if you're not familiar with the chat box, it should be at the bottom of your screen. It depends what you're watching on. If you're on a mobile device, it might be at the top. But when I ask you a question, so that we get some group interaction, it would be really fantastic if you add into the chat box. So muting the Itty Bitty Shitty Committee, or stopping that critical voice in your head. What you will learn today, I am the classic person of, I'm sorry I sent you such a long letter, I didn't have time to send you a short one. I tend to over deliver, but I'm definitely trying not to overwhelm you today. But what's in store today is what that inner critical voice is, why it matters, where it comes from, why it lies to you, and it can be really insidious. How, and I think this is a really important aspect, why and how it differs from your conscience and your intuition. I deal with pretty evolved clients, CEOs, MDs. They're people who've done a lot of work on themselves, probably been to loads of courses, A-Fest, Tony Robbins, you name it, got bookshelves full of, personal development books. But can get to a point where it's like, how do I know if that nagging voice is actually just my conscience or just my intuition? How do I know if I switch it off, I'm actually, going to be counterproductive and shoot myself in the foot over this? So some side gigs it has, so imposter syndrome and being a chronic people pleaser. Imposter syndrome, we could do a whole webinar on that, but it's really part of this critical inner voice. How to challenge it, how to conquer it, and then how to elevate that win. So I'm going to give you some permission to stop the old patterns and behaviors, and I'm going to give you the guided meditation. If you are not familiar with me, I am Rosalind Palmer, and I am trained in advanced rapid transformational therapy, and rapid transformational therapy itself is an amalgam of clinical hypnotherapy that I'm also trained in, NLP, CBT, and psychotherapy. So it's an incredibly powerful modality that really does what it says on the tin, that it's rapid and transformational. It's not a therapy that you're stuck in for years and years or months and months. It really gets to the root cause of your issue, addresses it, removes it, and you can move on. I'm also an NLP-based coach because the RTT works so well that a lot of people want to continue the journey. And I have a 25-year plus business background in marketing, PR, business. I was head of Marcoms for an international charity. I've been a non-exec director for a couple of charities. So I'm very left and right brain. Probably on my A levels, I did economics, French and English. So I have the creative side and I also have that business side. So I get you. I get what needs to happen in business. So here's the first question for you to put in the chat. What is your internal itty bitty shitty committee, or that voice in your head, called? My clients have referred to it as the voices in the attic. People call it the monkey on your shoulder. And again, I borrowed the Itty Bitty Shitty Committee from one of my Canadian clients because that's what she called it. And I thought it was so fantastic. So please do share what yours is called. I'm going to pause a moment and hope that we do get some comments in the chat. And oh, inner monkey. Yeah, exactly. And I have a podcast called Monkey Business. And I came up with that name because obviously the chimp mind, the monkey mind. Oh my God, there's some fantastic ones here. Inner monkey, the dining room experts. Oh, interesting. The warrior. Yeah. The harbinger of doom. Wow, that is really quite a not great one. I never named it, maybe the inner monkey. Yes, exactly. But I think you're all familiar with what we're talking about. It's that voice, that insidious voice. You know, who are you to do that? Why are you doing that? I'll be really honest, because anybody who works with me knows that that's one of my absolute top qualities, that I'm very transparent and very honest. I was planning this webinar, and this morning there was a part of me going, why am I doing this? I'm too old to be doing my first webinar. But I really caught myself saying that very quickly and shut myself up very quickly. But, you know, it will turn up if you're doubting yourself or you're feeling uncomfortable. So what is it? What is that inner critical voice? Well, it's the language. You know, this is very Freudian, if you like. It's the language of our defensive process. So in a way, it's often set out to defend us, but then it ends up being turned against us. It's the part of us that actually turns against us. And it's experienced in our head, in our thoughts, you know, and I've done NLP. I actually did Tony Robbins PR in the 90s and worked with Tony Robbins and Bandler. I went through all of his stuff, and Paul McKenna and Edward de Bono, the inventor of lateral thinking. Edward de Bono, Tony Robbins, Brandon Bayes, Robert Holden, they were my clients. So I had to really understand their stuff because I was the one putting it all out there in the newspapers, etc. And in NLP, Tony will talk about it being that whiny little voice. You know, for me, it's not a whiny little voice, but it's just that thing that turns up. And why does it matter? Well, obviously, it's like the enemy within the gates. This internal enemy can really affect every aspect of your life. And ultimately, that affects your self-esteem, your joy, your confidence. It will stop you doing things. Show me somebody who tells me that their issue is that they procrastinate, and I will pretty much show you somebody who, you know, this is what's going on for them. This is the deeper level under why they're not doing what they want to do. Show me somebody who constantly goes, it doesn't matter how hard I work, I never seem to go beyond XYZ turnover every year in my business. It's like they hit their own glass ceiling. It's called up leveling. They create a kind of upper level that they don't go beyond. This will be because that voice, that inner break, if you like, is stopping you. It's not a friendly moral guide. It's actually very damaging. And if you think about somebody like Caroline Flack, and I see you've said that sounds like you, Amanda. Yeah, I think we can all relate to it. If you think about somebody like Caroline Flack, if you're not in the UK, you might not be familiar with her, but she was a very high profile TV presenter and celebrity who killed herself a few years ago. And it was because of being trolled. It was because of being mercilessly trolled. And I love my mum. My mum's been dead some time, and she had a lot of wisdom, but I'm afraid she was completely wrong about one thing. She used to say to me, sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt me. Rubbish. That's absolute rubbish. And the trouble is, when you're being trolled from the outside, like celebrities are, like a lot of us are. I mean, I've been on Facebook and had some really quite unpleasant things said to me, really out of the blue for no apparent reason. I kind of get the person's psychology as to why they have the need to do it, but it's not very nice being on the receiving end of it. And it's very hard not to let that in. It's very hard not to let that trolling, that criticism in. And of course, what happens is, you know, you read the one comment, you read it there in the moment, but you carry it on all day. You keep repeating it. You keep thinking about it. You know, all those horrible things. You're the one who keeps it on repeat, just so that you feel really, really bad. And that's what goes on in your head unless you can shut it up. So I'm your friend, I'm your colleague, and you come to work and I say to you, God, you look tired today. In fact, you look really old. Thought about Botox? Don't like the way you've done your hair. Oh my God, why are you even thinking about that, doing that presentation? And who are you to think that you're ever going to get that promotion? I mean, seriously, you wouldn't put up with it for a minute. You probably have a workplace bullying policy, which that has completely contravened immediately, but you bully yourself all the time because that dialogue is going on inside your head. Tell me if I'm wrong there, that if you spoke to a loved one or to a colleague the way you speak to yourself, you would be very lonely. It would be what we call loneliness preparation. And it would really contravene a lot of things at work. And also for all of you who are parents, and please raise your hand if you are, or grandparents, would you speak to a child like that? Would you speak to a child that you're nurturing the way you speak to yourself? Like, oh, just give it up, you know, don't even think about it. Who are you to think you can do that? You're just a loser. You always screw up. No, but we do constantly say that to ourselves. So I'm just going to share my screen, I believe, if I can press the right buttons. And because it's just such a lovely photo, so I'm just going to move to this picture. So when you were a child, you had dreams and you knew you were enough, and here's why. So you come from an environment, the womb, which is like the most perfect environment. You get room service 24/7. The temperature is always regulated. You are lovingly connected to somebody. Now, look, I know because I do RTT, rapid transformational therapy, and hypnotherapy. There are some people who, even from the womb, knew that they weren't wanted. And that sense of disconnect goes literally back to that time. They are the minority, thankfully. Most mothers, most parents want the child. And so on the whole, in most pregnancies, the child is lovingly developed within that incredible environment. It's the most incredible environment. Everything you need is there, room service, everything. And so you're nurtured, your literal DNA, your literal cells, your epigenetics, your mind-body connection is grown in that place. And so you come into the world, you come out of that environment, pretty much thinking all your needs can be met. And when you're a baby, again, I get that there are exceptions to this rule. I really do. I deal with a lot of this as clients. But on the whole, you cry, you know, you get seen to. You cry because you're tired or hungry or afraid, you know, you're going to get your needs met. And again, when you're a little kid, you know, you're treated like you're a genius. I mean, my goodness, you know, you do a poop on your potty and everybody's like, oh, so amazing. You know, it's like you've just invented electricity. You take your first steps, you know. So on the whole, and again, I do get the exceptions because I deal with a lot of them. You know, you have this incredible self-esteem. You have this incredible, you're wired to think that everything is good and available. And you were told you're amazing, etc. But then what happens is over and over again, you get told no. Early life experiences, parents, teachers, other influential adults in your life, you hear the word no a lot. In fact, there's been studies done that you hear the word no at least 7 times every time compared to what you hear the word yes. So it's like, don't do that. And of course, some of it's for your protection. Don't put your hand in the fire. Don't stand near that edge because you might get injured. But it becomes more than that. It's like, don't be silly. Don't be silly. Don't go for that lead role in the school play. You can't sing, or, oh no, you won't like it. Who are you to think you can do that? And also we pick up on the negative attitudes that people have themselves or towards us. And so more and more we shut down. So that natural self-esteem and that natural, I can have my needs met, I can do anything, gets lost, gets pushed down. So I believe this is where I'm going to do my poll. So let's hope this works. There we go. Can you guys see that? Oh, hang on. Let me press this. Yay. So where do you think mostly, given what I've just said, that those external voices that then became internal, where do you think most of yours came from? Was it your parents? Were they hypercritical? Was it your teachers? Did you have some really terrible teachers? Was it other adults, or was it something else? And if you say something else, please could you do a comment in the chat? I'd really appreciate that. So yes, let's have a look. And of course, adults could be your parents and your teachers. Let's have a look what we've got. Yeah, mother, aunts. Yes, absolutely. Peers, bullying. Well, 100%. And this is the problem, isn't it? You might come from quite a good environment in your family, but you get to school and you are the confident one. You are the different one. You are the SWAT. You are the one who's different. And of course, kids don't like things that are different. If you've never read or seen Lord of the Flies by William Golding, because I have a background in literature, that's my degree, trust me, that's what it's all about. If you go to a school and you're the only black kid and everybody else is white, you're probably going to get bullied. If you go to a school and you're only white kid because everybody else is black, same. If you've got blonde hair, everybody else has got black hair, it doesn't matter. But if you're different, and often being different is that you're maybe confident and you are the clever one, you're probably going to get pulled down by the bullies. I was bullied mercilessly in my early years at school. In fact, it took my parents going to school when I was 11 to intervene, because I was the SWAT. I was the quiet, swatty girl, and people didn't like it because I was different. So you've answered parents, although more my dad, yeah, and bullied, of course. And thanks for sharing all of that, everybody. And so you often have a very good idea about where that all came from, but the issue is, how do you stop it? So, and also the other problem is, long after other people stop saying no to us or bullying us or doing all of that, and let me just share that screen again, just because I really like this visual, we become our own internal critic. And in psychology, there is a name for this. It's called the internal corrections officer. So you've had all these external corrections officers, and now you're having internal corrections officers, which is you, or that voice. And the trouble is, you're maybe 40 or 30 or 50 or 60. I've even had clients who are like 70 or more. And for good measure, you're carrying on that correction. You're carrying on those things that were said to you from the bullies, from the toxic teachers, from the unkind, not very conscious parents, and you carry it on. So actually, I won't go on that one. I will stop the share. Who is familiar, and I think we're going to get 100% here, do raise your hand, with Snow White? And so the fairy tale of Snow White, over and over and over again, the wicked stepmother is super jealous of her and really, you know, wants her out of her life, wants her out of her world. And the way she gets her is to get her to eat that beautiful, shiny apple. And there's a lot of, you know, kind of, oh, eat the apple. It's so lovely. Eat that beautiful apple. And the trouble with your internal voice is it can be deceptively self-soothing. It's not always critical. It can be super insidious. It can be really unhelpful, like Cinderella's stepmother. I gave up alcohol over a year ago. I'm alcohol free. I like to say gave up alcohol rather than sober, because I think sober has a connotation that, you know, you have a problem. But I'd really reached a point, being menopausal and, you know, at a point in my life, and also entering a new relationship with my partner is teetotal, that I just was done with it, really. And so I've been alcohol free for over a year. And there is Janie Lee Grace, who is a radio presenter on BBC Radio 2. I'm friends with her. I know her. I've done some work with her. And she runs a stop drinking alcohol free club. And she calls this voice the wine witch. She's got a TED talk and she talks about it. And it's that wine witch for her, you know, that voice at 6 o'clock, you know, when you've said, oh, I'm doing dry January and I'm not going to have a drink, that the wine witch turns up and goes, oh, you know, you've had a really hard day. You've done really well. Oh, my goodness. You know, you deserve it. You deserve it. You know, you work hard. It's just one drink. Have that drink. And of course, people who are dieting, people who are giving up alcohol, giving up smoking, that wine witch or cake witch or cigarette witch, whatever you want to call them, it's an incredibly insidious voice. And it will kind of whisper to you over and over again, oh, you know, you deserve it. Again, please raise your hand if this is resonating with you, and do in the chat, let me know what your witch is, or what happens to you. What's that insidious voice that turns up in your head that kind of encourages you to not do the things you really want to do? I see there's a bit of a delay on the comments, so I'm going to be super patient and zen and just wait to see if there's a couple of comments from people. And if not, I will carry on. So while those comments come in, let's go to one of the really important parts of this. Maybe actually let's recap so far. So far what we've covered is what your voice is called, where you've got an idea that it came from, why it turns up, really why you weren't originally wired for it in your original DNA. And, you know, there's the good news, because it means you can go back to that original, I'm enough and everything's available to me and I'm good enough. You know, it's there, it's within you, it's deep in your DNA. So that's really good to know that you can go back to it. And, you know, what's it called? And also when you were young, you know, those dreams maybe you had. In fact, that was something I didn't actually ask you about being young, but we'll come on to that later about what dreams you had, because I think it's, oh, here we go. It's only a bit of a treat. Go on. Exactly. It's always insidious. So how does the inner voice differ from your conscience? I think this is really important. You know, how do I know if I'm going to turn it off? I'm not turning off my conscience. So here's the bottom line. It's not a trustworthy moral compass. It's the opposite. It's actually degrading. It's punishing. It's really all about negative feelings. And any negative feelings over and over and over again lead to dis-ease, disease. I know, Dr. Van Toren, you are watching this, you are a doctor, you know about dis-ease. You're the person who saved my life and brought me through cancer. So it's absolutely amazing that you're at my masterclass. And I know a lot about epigenetics and the mind-body connection. And of course, when you are constantly stressed, constantly in a negative, toxic environment, particularly if that's internal, you're going to create a cellular reaction to that, and it's going to cause disease. And that's going to be what happens, unfortunately. So it's not based in love. It's not based in a moral guidance. You know, how is that different from our intuition? It's very different. Our intuition is always right on. And in the last year and a half, particularly during lockdown, I've joined a couple of courses myself that I've signed up for, because I never stop learning, and they've all been about soul alignment, about bringing out my soul alignment, about listening to my intuition, about elevating myself on that side. And later in the year I'm going to have a course on that. I'm actually putting that together now, about really up leveling that intuition, that manifestation, that trusting your inner voice, the loving, good inner voice. And it's always sourced in love, and it's sourced in high self-esteem, and it's a function of our higher self. So why, if that's also good, and why, if the negative voice causes dis-ease, you know, is it there? Why do we keep doing this to ourselves? Well, there's two reasons. And I want you all to comment about this, because I think this is going to be bingo, and you're going to really relate to this, because trust me, I have seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of clients over the last 7 years as a therapist. And I'm not saying nearly everybody's problems come down to this, but ultimately there will be some point that, you know, this is where we're going to go. And it's like that nagging voice, that behavior, that thing that holds you back, that makes you procrastinate, that stops you from doing something, is either there to prove, ironically, that you're good enough when you think you're not. So it's like galvanizing you. It's like having a very, you know, let's think of the SAS. You know, I sometimes watch those SAS programs. Trust me, when you're running up the hill with the backpack on and you're pausing, those guys do not shout at you something like, oh, you know, you've done so well, you're nearly up the hill, well done. No, they use a lot of expletives, and they shout at you, you know, like, don't you effing quit, and, you know, haven't you got this in you, and don't let us down, and you're a disgrace. I mean, it's, you know, so it's like a kind of incredibly harsh motivation, incredibly harsh galvanization. And unfortunately, at a very early stage in your life, you learned, it's a bit like carrot and stick, that the stick could actually really galvanize you, that the stick, you know, like, don't let us down, you know, do not let the team down, do not, you know, that actually would galvanize you. And your subconscious has gone, oh, that's good, because you're going to be really successful if I keep doing that for you, if I keep galvanizing you with this stick rather than a carrot. And you're like, no, it's making me, it's making me tired. It's making me depressed. It's making me doubt myself. It actually makes me procrastinate. And often you also, the flip side of it, and it sometimes can be one or the other. The flip side of it is, you're young, okay? You've done something. Let's say you're at school and they go, all right, you stand in front of the class and read out your poem. And you see the bully, and the bully's laughing at the back going, loser, and you choke, and you absolutely can't do it, and everybody's laughing, and the bully's at the back of the room, and the teacher goes, oh, for goodness sake, just sit down if you're going to be that hopeless. Your subconscious goes, that was a really horrible experience. I don't want to ever go there again. And so your subconscious will keep you safe from that experience. Fast forward, you're 50 and you're managing director or CEO of a major company, and you're supposed to do a shareholders meeting and stand out on stage, and you've practiced it, you've got your talk ready, and you're in the wings, and suddenly you literally have upset tummy or migraine or a panic attack, because your subconscious is going, no, remember, I keep you safe that is not nice, because there'll be somebody in the audience going, loser, remember how bad that felt, let's protect you from it. So it will either galvanize you or protect you, but either way, it's going to stop you. Did that make sense to everybody? Because there was quite a big download of information there. Please do type in the comments. Yes, good. Any other thoughts from anybody? Did that make sense? So how do you identify if it is intuition? It's all very well and good finding out, you know, what we know, but how do we have a blueprint for going forward? So start to recognize when we're in our self-talk, our negative self-talk, and differentiate it from intuition. And I've put this up because you might want to do a screen share. You might want to make a note of this. Here's some just really good and powerful, high quality questions. Is it based in love? Does it feel like it comes from my heart? Remember that thing of, would I say this to a child I love, to my child, to, you know, somebody I love? Does it come from love? Is it from my heart, or is it really from my head? And does it really talk from fear, from anger, and from sadness? You know, because these are going to be the old things that are going to hold you back. I just noticed a chat come in, so I'm going to have a look. Peers, bullying. Yeah, absolutely. I relate to what you say. I have much more awareness now and done a lot of work. Thank you for that feedback. And let me just go to the next one. Oh, hang on. I'm not going to go there quite yet. So another hack for this, and I don't have a slide for it, but I'm going to say it to you, is turn it into a third person. Always, if you want to take the power and the passion away from something, you turn it into a third person. You will notice, and I would like Dr. Van Toren to maybe, if he's there to comment on this, you will know, because you've seen everything I've talked about over the years, 17 years now since I had the cancer, that I don't call it my cancer. Even when I had it, I didn't call it my cancer. Anything you call my, you really, really own. And so when people come to me and they talk about, oh, my depression, I go, no, the depression. Because the minute you make it the third person, it takes the power away. When you own something, it really, really gives it power. So stop owning it. So let's say, for example, in your head, it's like, oh, Mike, don't bother. Remember, you were just such a dunce at school. Then you ask your voice, you challenge it, and you say, why does Mike, I know this sounds weird, but you're becoming the third person. Why does Mike, who's so confident at work, feel like an imposter? Why does Mike keep harking back onto that time he wasn't confident in the classroom? Or maybe it's the opposite. You know, why does Mike, who is really worried about this presentation and this talk, not remember that when he was at school, he was team leader and captain? So you're just distancing yourself from it, and you're questioning it. Questions, look, you know, freedom of speech, okay? I don't know if you've seen the big hoo-ha about Elon Musk buying Twitter. It's everywhere. And I saw a poll on LinkedIn, and it's really divided people, but a lot of people are like, if it means there's more freedom of speech, then that's a good thing. And obviously, if you think about a communist regime, a gulag, anywhere where there's kind of mind control, they immediately shut down freedom of speech, because what freedom of speech does is it allows you to question things. And when you question things, you take the power of them away, because you're questioning it. And so you're going to question that voice, and you're going to put yourself in the third person. Now, the other thing is being a chronic people pleaser. Let me stop the share for one moment because it's slightly distracting. One of the rules of the mind, and there are only probably about 7 or 8, is that we do what's familiar. So I'm a caveman. I'm out and about because we've gone from hunter to gatherer, but we're still hunter gatherers. But I'm now gathering, and I'm getting some berries. but I don't want to go beyond the horizon, because I know that my cave is safe, my tribe is safe. I know what's up to the horizon. It's familiar, and familiar equals safe. And we are hardwired in the primitive part of our brain, which is called the limbic amygdala. We are absolutely hardwired to see what's familiar as being safe. Sadly, that means we stay or U-turn over and over and over and over again back to what's familiar. I'm a battered wife or a battered husband. I'm in an abusive relationship, but it's familiar. And I try to leave them and I go back, and people go, why did they go back? Because the big wide world out there, particularly if you've been gaslighted and had all your self-esteem knocked to smithereens, that's a really scary place. Whereas, okay, it's a toxic environment you live in, but it's familiar. And unfortunately, at a very primitive level, familiar equals safe. So let's ask why we can become a chronic people pleaser. And again, I'm going to just share the screen very quickly. So Pink. I love Pink. I've seen her in concert. She's amazing. She has a song called Family Portrait. And in this song, excuse me, I'm just going to have a sip of tea. I'll let you read that. The bottom line is, and I won't go through the words because you can read them, that her experience was this really toxic family where her parents did get divorced, and the song's all about that lovely happy smiling picture on the sideboard, you know, probably send out the Christmas card where they're all wearing white shirts and blue jeans and everybody looks happy, or, you know, social media, you're going to put the happy photo up, and behind it it's toxic. And she wants that world to be like that portrait. But when you are a child, you are actually a narcissist in the best sense of the world. Your little world is your little world, and you think everything revolves around you. That's to do with that, you know, feeling that you're enough that we talked about earlier. So if your little world revolves around you and you pick up on the energy around you, mum and dad are fighting, mum and dad are going to divorce, it must be my fault. That's what Pink's saying. Let's go back. I promise I'll be better. I promise I'll be better. I promise I'll be better. Please don't leave. In other words, if I'm better, it must be my fault. Then if I'm good, it will be okay. And they feel guilty because they feel like they've let their parents down. And, you know, that feeling of guilt and that you've got to please everybody is very hardwired. And so I've got clients who are CEOs of multi-million pound companies. And you know, they're exhausting themselves because they don't want to let somebody on their team down. They go in and open up because, oh, that person's, you know, not, you know, I'm like, they want to please everybody all the time, and you can't. And it comes from that hard wiring. Obviously, conversely, if you had really great upbringing, then, you know, you're going to have very high self-esteem and feel like things can all be changed by you. So it's not your fault, okay? But it is your responsibility. So you are responsible. So these things weren't your fault, but these things are your responsibility. And you start to change it by challenging it. So you challenge it by working out where did those voices come from, which we've done. You challenge it by putting it into the third party. You challenge it by questioning it. You're challenging it by understand where, you know, what happened when you grew up. Maybe it was your society. Girls weren't supposed to be doctors or astronauts, you know, so this society, community, your family, your teachers, the bullies, you know, you can start to dissect and understand it. And then you can really know about your identity, and you will always stay true to your identity. It's like I said about the battered wife or husband. You're going to stay true to your identity because that's what's familiar. And the thing to stop doing that, if you're really not in a good place, is to understand that the rules you are living by are rules, bullshit rules. So you're living by some really bullshit rules, you know, that things that you grew up hearing. Oh, you know, richness is not for our family. Money is the root of all evil. Having a big house is not for people like us. Girls never amount to anything, etc., etc. They're bullshit rules, and they are imposed on us by other people and our society and our upbringing. And the way to really challenge this, and please get a paper and pen and write this down, is you work out your shoulds versus your musts. So a must is an absolute. I must not kill. I must not, let's say I'm a very Orthodox Jew, I must not eat pork, or I must not drive a vehicle on the Sabbath. My shoulds might be, oh yeah, there we go. My granddad told me money stank and never want too much of it. Exactly. So you work out what are your musts and what are your shoulds, because obviously a should is a bit more flexible. I shouldn't eat that cake. I shouldn't, etc. And you write your musts and should down, literally get 2 columns on a piece of paper, write down what you're living by your musts, and then ask yourself, are these still right for me? Of course, they might be. They're your moral guidance. So I would say I must not kill is pretty high. But, you know, I must not, I don't know, I must not ever amount to anything, or I must not get beyond myself. Does that really work for me? Does it give me joy and purpose? Does it help or hinder my life? So write out your musts, ask that. Is it right for me? Does it give me joy and purpose? Does it help or hinder me? Then look at your shoulds. And maybe you should be better. Maybe one of your shoulds is, I should be successful in business. But you didn't hear that that was an absolute when you grow up, because you weren't surrounded by people who, for that was a must. If you were probably, you know, Alan Sugar's daughter or son, you're going to hear you must do well in business. But, you know, if your parents, you know, weren't in that kind of ilk, it was a should. Should you be making your shoulds into a must? And just a quick note about relationships. Nearly all relationship problems are when one person's shoulds rub up against and clash against another person's musts. So just very quickly, let's say I'm in a new relationship and my must is you must be faithful to me, you must not commit adultery. And the other person's thing is you should be faithful to me, you should not commit adultery. I think we can already see where that could go really horribly wrong. And people, you know, I've been married and divorced twice, and never did we sit down and go, what are your absolutes? You know, you kind of assume people have the same values as you, but you don't. So again, write out your rules, your bullshit rules, the rules. Ask yourself, what do I do because of this rule? Is it just expected, inherited? Did I just inherit it? Is it simply that I'm familiar with it? Remember, I keep you turning back to it. The mind does what's familiar. Is it easier to do it than not do it? That's often a very big one. And does it actually improve the quality of my life? And then we can conquer it. So, you know, knowledge is power. And once you've recognized a lot of this, you know, you're way more than halfway there in getting rid of it. You know, you've already seen where it comes from. You've already questioned it, you've already challenged it, and so you're able to move on. I think there's a very good screen share for you again. Let me just check. Yeah. Again, ask yourself, what could this mean? You know, what evidence I have. So say your voice is saying you'll never amount to anything. What evidence do I have? I'm actually a mother. I've got 2 beautiful children. I've managed a wonderful relationship. I bake incredible cakes. You know, why are you telling me I'm a failure? Remind yourself, this is, if you're having the worst day ever, this might be the only thing you can get through your day. My success rate for staying alive is 100% so far. So it's not going to change. So, you know, sometimes that's as good as it gets. Ask, does it feel familiar? Think, what's the one thing I can do right now? Say thank you for sharing to your voice. Now take a hike and change it to something positive. So change it equals heal it. I'm running a bit behind time, so I'm not going to go into this. But there is a power in words. I'm a wordsmith. I love words. And the big thing to tap back into that younger you before you had all that criticism, that bullying, that no, is to kind of think, what did I dream of being? So that's me. I'm very cute, aren't I? On the left, I'm about 3. And I found my Twinkle album in my dad's attic when he died. And it was from when I was about 6. And in the front, it said, when I grow up, I want to be. And I'd put a doctor, or it might have been an actress, and a doctor in my spare time. Early seeds of overachieving, clearly. But, you know, nothing stops you. You know, when you're 5, if you want to be Batman, you know, you can be Batman. If you want to be a princess, you could be a princess. So think back to what you wanted to be when you were 5. And again, we could maybe share that. Finally, how to stop it in its tracks. Pause. If it feels off, it's probably off. Ponder. Work out, is it just the old rules? Maybe journal, write it down. Please yourself. Do that heart thing. What feels right for you? You can write down what are 10 acts of self-love you can do today. Look in the mirror and say, you rock. We've got this. Go out in nature. That's always my lifesaver. You know, if I'm feeling really bad, I just get out. Luckily, I live in a beautiful place with 3 acres and I have animals. I've got sheep, I've got turkeys. There's nothing like getting out for half an hour. And then we're going to send you this, and it's a pattern break permission slip. And I'm giving you permission to break those old patterns. So you, anytime you find that pattern's turning up, you can print this out and you write what's going on, what's turning up, and then you've got some really powerful ways of breaking it. And you'll get that after this. So I'm going to do a 10-minute guided meditation now, but I appreciate maybe not everybody can stay. But just before I do, and I see it's in the chat, this is just a tiny fraction. I mean, this is one part of 11 modules of my Realigned Leader course. And I'm not going to do a big sell. I'm into authentic selling, and it took me ages to create this course. I went away 2 years ago. Oh, I must have an online course, and just came back with mind maps and umbrella diagrams and piles of notes, and it just didn't seem right. And then last year in, oops, somebody's raised their hand. That's brilliant. Last year in lockdown, I thought I'm really going to come back to this, and I joined a group about creating a course, and I had this fantastic, you know, what we would call aha moment. And my aha moment was that when I was doing the PR for Tony Robbins in the 1990s, he shared a story, and the story was that he was doing really well, super successful, earning shed loads of money. He built and bought a fantastic house in San Diego, I think, and that he'd come home one day unexpectedly, and his maid was in the hot tub. Now, he was fine about that because he'd said, avail yourself of, you know, the facilities. But she went, oh, Mr. Robbins, I love your hot tub. I go in it every night. You really should try it sometime. And he realized that he'd never actually been in it, and that the very life he was working hard to create was being lived in by other people. He actually wasn't living that life. And I realized that for me, because I've had a 25-year background in marketing and business. I retired at 40, a millionairess, and moved to the Bahamas, and then my life imploded and it all changed, and I had to reinvent myself and reset my life. And then obviously brought that deep grounding in NLP and self-development from the 90s into my work 7 years ago when I trained in RTT, and I was a trainer for 10 of the courses. That realignment, that feeling of, is this as good as it gets? That's what it's all about, I think, for very high achievers. And so my course absolutely addresses that. So you can see that it's based on realigning your inner compass, that inner voice, which is what we've really just talked about, having a blueprint for your life, a little bit of elements of what we've done, mechanics of the mind, so understanding even more, fitness, mind and body. Like, look, I've been on a 30-year journey about my health, and particularly after the cancer, I was galvanized even more. So better bodies, then lots on relationships, which I like to call the ghost ship, the love boat, and battleship boundaries. And then finance, and really having the best business and the best life you can have. So I think that is probably it. I don't seem to have any more slides. Let me just look if there's anything in the chat. I know somebody raised their hand. Did you want to ask a question? Please do ask questions. We've got 10 minutes. The link to the Realigned Leader is there. If you sign up, here's the quick sell. If you literally, because it starts in, let me just tell you, Tuesday the 17th of May. If you sign up within the next week, you will get £550 worth of bonuses, which is an RTT one-to-one session with me and a coaching session with me privately. And that's a bonus. And there's lots and lots of other bonuses. There's a signed copy of my book. There's 11 downloadable workbooks each week. Each week you get a transformational recording like the one I'm about to do. And we have loads of guest experts as well, because I'm really well connected in the health and well-being world. And so I've got people coming in talking about things like gut health. These are bonuses. These are over and above the 11 weeks. Gut health, divorce and relationships, breath work, sexual intimacy, nutrition, diet, etc. You get lifetime access to the course. And so now, thank you. It was awesome. Have to run. Brilliant. You can get this meditation afterwards. But for anybody who would like to do it now, just before I do, are there any questions from anybody? Would anybody like to ask me a question? Any clarification on anything? No, I've probably overwhelmed you with all the information, but you can get a recording of this. The permission slip, I think, is really powerful. I hope you made some notes of the exercises, and if not, we can absolutely share that with you. This recording I'm about to do, you can get, so you can have, and I've also put a really nice backing track on it. And so for those of you staying now, brilliant. Thank you. You're more than welcome. Awesome. Oh, I like that. That's lovely. Appreciate it. Thank you. So for who's staying, let me just get comfortable, please. And I'm going to put just a screen share on so that you're not distracted. We're going to be 10 minutes. Okay. So we're running over very slightly. But I think you'll find it's worth it. Yes, I forgot to say these bits about the course. These are all things that you get on the Realigned Leader course. And you know, they're all really well researched. I've lived this. This is just isn't something I've sort of got from a bit of a course. And all the additions and the experts. And now we're going to have the guided meditation. So if you would all like to get yourselves comfortable and just close your eyes. I want you to breathe in and breathe in for about the count of 5 and breathe out for about the count of 7. Just breathe in and breathe in the word let and breathe out the word go. And as you breathe in to any tight, tense places and breathe all the tension out with the breath. So that with every breath, your body is becoming more relaxed and easier. And just as you don't need to think about breathing, you don't need to think about this. So breathe in and breathe out. And now drop your chin And get that same looking down feeling you would get if you were looking out of an upstairs window or over a balcony. And as you get that looking down feeling, I want you to imagine that below you are 10 steps, and you might not actually see them. They might just be in your mind's eye. But drop your chin and look down. And in your mind's eye, you're now seeing your foot making contact with step 10. And now you're hearing your foot making contact with step 9. And anything you're hearing, my voice just takes you deeper. You're moving deeper, traveling deeper, letting go, taking step 8, drifting down, traveling down to a deeper level on step 7 and 6 and 5, each time letting go into a different awareness of yourself. You're halfway down already. And allow a wave of relaxation to come right down from the top of your head. Imagine it almost like a laser beam that's coming down from your crown chakra, from the top of your head, right down your body, releasing any tension as it goes, so that every part of you is becoming relaxed and limp and lazy. And as you move down, taking step 4 and 3 and 2, and moving off to an even deeper level, just let go. And you're taking step 1 and stepping off. And as you do, and you hear the words, go deeper, sleep deeply, you go deeper, you sleep deeply. It's not an actual sleep, it's a sleep of the unconscious. And I want to tell you something. I want you to know something. You are incredibly suggestible. And when you were younger, what you lacked was the power and the perspective to understand things that were said to you, over you, for you, and weren't always for your benefit. And when you were a small child, you'd come from the most incredible environment, the womb, where room service, perfect temperature, being fed on demand, being protected and loved was there 24/7. So there's a part of you deep within, literally at the level of your DNA, knowing that every need can be met, that you're more than enough, that you're amazing. So just for one moment, I want you to imagine you are that younger, smaller, lighter version of yourself. And just imagine also then a time, a place that's vividly all to do with when and where and how and why you had things said to you or over you or for you that people who'd known better would have said better or done better, but they didn't. Maybe they thought it was for your benefit, or maybe they were being harsh. Critical words, limiting beliefs were said to you. Imagine just being there for one moment. Just get a sense of that. Are you inside or outside? How old are you? Is it day or night? Who are you with, or are you alone? And just like you're seeing it on a TV screen, like you've rewound a DVD on your life, your mind immediately knows the harm that was done, that when you were a child, you lacked the power. The people in authority, your parents, your teachers, other adults, they were the authority figures. If they rejected you, you had no comeback, no say. If they spoke critically to you, you had to absorb it. If you were unhappy, like Pink, you probably thought it was your fault. Just get a sense of that. And even if nothing comes up now, when you listen to this later, it will, at a deep level of knowing. And now you understand at this deep level of knowing, while all these years later, your mind is going back to what's familiar, U-turning and telling you these things. That critical voice is telling you these things, reminding you of these things. But just as you can't cross a river in the same place because the water's flown on even an hour later, there's slightly different rocks or weed. You actually can't relive your past. It's only the meaning you attach to the events that happened that you carry with you. And now you see that, you understand that, you give that a different meaning, you have perspective. You understand that perhaps your clever subconscious has been trying to protect you from the pain of failure, protect you in some ways by up-limiting your life, by holding you small, by making you play short, or by being a stick like the SAS and galvanizing you with harshness. But now you can say to your subconscious, no more. I am not that child. That's not me. I'm no longer whatever age you saw in your mind. I want to be loved. I want to be the best version of myself and give that to myself. I want to hear in my head what love would say. What would love say? What would be for my higher good? You were born with that personal power, that inner DNA, knowing that you are more than enough. So now you are turning to that. You are investing and up-leveling to that. And you tell your clever subconscious mind, whose only job is to do what it believes you want it to do, this is what I want. This is what I will have. I want to heal. That's not me. I no longer need that voice. I demand to feel empowered. I want to trust myself, my intuition, my inner power, my experience. And I now demand that we put that internal corrections officer, that itty bitty shitty committee, on mute permanently. Just because it's familiar doesn't mean it's good for me. It's not good for me at all. It's robbing me of my joy, my power, my success. And now I choose to realign to my best self, to my inner power, to do what love would do, to do what I often do for others, to speak the way I do to people I love and nurture. That's what I demand. The old committee is fired. It's no longer welcome. There's no room in my head, my life, my mind, my body for this old committee anymore. It's gone. I'm rehiring a new committee, in fact, a board, a sounding board, a board in my head, a board full of loving people, people I want to emulate, people I look up to, people who know my purpose, people who recognize and value my gifts, my talent, my soul. So just for a moment, think of who those people would be. Who are the mentors that would help you? Who are the people with phenomenal coping skills, the ones you look up to? And who are you when you are your best, when you're coaching others? Add yourself to that board, the best version of you, plus the others. They can be dead or alive or imaginary, it doesn't matter. They're people who will support you, people who will tell you the things you wanted to hear as a child. You are more than enough. You are amazing. You are spirited. You can color outside the lines. We're taught at school to color inside the lines, and who wants to do that anymore? You are unique and wonderful. Whatever it was you wanted to hear when you were younger, tell it to yourself now. And now your clever subconscious, whose only job is to keep you alive, keep you safe, now knows that to keep you alive for longer, safe for longer, requires you being happier and fulfilled, realigned in this way. Hearing a loving, nurturing voice in your head with your sounding board there, like internal coaches or cheerleaders every day, to encourage and support you. This is its job. It's like you've been operating on faulty software for decades and you've now uninstalled it, debugged it, upgraded to a new fit for purpose system with all the glitches taken out. Literally look inside and feel that change at the very level of your DNA. Feel it transporting you, transforming you, liberating you. Your body feels lighter. You feel different because you are different. You're now the most realigned, radiant, amazing version of yourself you can be. Let that sink in. And when you're ready, you can calmly, easily, effortlessly, wonderfully come back to your full awareness, feeling free, feeling phenomenal. And more, you're going to find that this unstoppable change process with this new upgraded operating software is you every day, and that becomes familiar. If you listen to this at night, when we get to 5, you're actually going to go into a deep dream-filled sleep full of nurturing, healing dreams that continue this unstoppable change process. But for now, take a breath on the count of 1, own that power. On the count of 2, for now and always, you're ready, you're changed. On the count of 3, open your eyes. On the count of 4, take a deep breath. And on the count of 5, welcome to your most amazing realigned life possible. I'm Rosalind Palmer. Thank you for the time you've spent with me. The link to the Realigned Leader course for more information has been in the comments, and you can set up a one-to-one call with me if you'd like to talk about it more. And any last questions? I see that people love the meditation. Thank you so much. And really, really thank you for your time. Thank you for turning up. I think there was a lot of value. And have an amazing day. So you will receive it, yes. If you've signed up for the webinar, and obviously now we have your email, so you'll receive this recording that I've just done. You'll receive that permission slip, link to the course, and I think a copy of the presentation, so, or the recording, I believe it's the recording that you're going to get. So yes, you'll get lots of stuff anyway, and if there's other things you want, just let us know. Yes, more than welcome. Thank you so much for joining, and have an incredible day, everybody. And I'm Rosalind Palmer. You can find me at rosalindpalmer.com, and enjoy your day. Bye.